A factory producing smartphones finds that its output varies with the number of workers employed each week in the following way. At how many workers does marginal product begin to diminish? Well, the marginal product, in this case of labor, because it's dealing with the number of workers, is equal to the change in output divided by the change in our input, which in this case is labor. If we want, for example, the first value, this is going to be 72 minus 28 divided by 2 minus 1, which is equal to 44. So this is our column for our marginal product of labor. And if we continue using the same calculations, we've got 60 for producing the third, 52 for producing the fourth, 36 for producing the fifth, and 0 for producing the sixth. So as we can see, we've got initially increasing marginal productivity, and then it starts to decrease at the fourth unit, you could say between the fourth unit of third and fourth unit of labor, but we'll have at the fourth unit because it's after you've produced the third, you produce the fourth, and then it starts to decrease. Question B. An airline is flying between two cities and has the following costs associated with the flight. The airline has an average of 30 passengers paying an average of $200 for this flight. Do you think the airline should be flying between the two cities? Evaluate from a short run and a long run perspective. Well, let's start by calculating our total revenue. The total revenue is going to be the price times the quantity. The price that we have is 200 times 30, and so we're getting $6,000 per flight. And now we want to separate between our variable costs and our fixed costs. And just so happens that, as we can see, our total fixed costs are over here, the plain daily depreciation and plain daily insurance. So our total fixed costs are equal to 2,000 plus 1,500, and that equals 3,500. And our total variable costs are these costs over here. These are costs that we wouldn't have to incur if we didn't fly, but the fixed costs we have to incur whether we fly or not. So these are going to be 2,000 plus 1,100 plus 2,000, which are 5,100. And so our total costs are equal to our total fixed costs plus our total variable costs, and that is 8,600. Now, let's look in the short run. In the short run, we have both total fixed costs and total variable costs. If our total revenue is enough to cover our total variable costs and then some of our total fixed costs, we should continue to fly. And in this case, the total revenue is $6,000. Our total variable cost is $5,100. And so our loss is going to be smaller if we continue to fly. Even though we know we're going to have a loss of $900, we should continue to fly. In the long run, all costs are variable. Our total revenue in the long run, 6,000. Our total cost is 8,600. We're incurring a loss, and in the long run, since we have the opportunity to get rid of those fixed costs, that we're going to shut down. Question C. Illustrate a set of average and marginal cost curves for a bakery. Illustrate and explain how these curves would be affected by a decrease in the cost of flour. Okay, so we have a bakery, and our quantity dollars, we know that if we've got average fixed cost decline, average variable cost decrease and then increase, average total cost decrease and increase, and they get closer to average variable cost as quantity increases, and then marginal cost increases and decreases, and marginal cost intersects average variable and average total costs where those curves are at their minimum. So now we have a decrease in the cost of flour. Flour is going to be a variable cost because the more bread we make, the more flour we're going to use. So we know that we're going to have a decrease in average variable cost. If average variable cost decreases, then we know that average total cost is going to decrease. And when variable costs decrease, marginal cost decreases, and so we'll have a decrease in marginal cost. There's no effect on fixed costs.